A 14-year-old girl vanished, and 1 year later, her body was found in the front trunk of a Tesla, belonging to TikTok star D4vd, the singer behind Romantic Homicide. In a leaked backstage clip, he's seen holding a black wig identical to Celeste's hair. At the same time, his lyrics match the exact days she disappeared. Is this just art or a hidden confession? The images, streams, and data we're about to uncover may reveal the chilling truth behind the Tesla, the fame, and the girl who never came home. It started like so many missing teen cases do, with a flyer. On April 5, 2024, 13 Juarez Hernandez was reported missing from her family's home in Lake Elsinore, California. Her family searched, neighbors helped, and for months people wondered where she'd gone. But as time passed, small flashes of her life began surfacing, moments that made the mystery far more complicated than anyone expected. 2 months later, on June 2, 2024, Celeste appeared at a family gathering. Someone captured her laughing, eating, surrounded by relatives. She didn't look scared or lost. She looked like a teenager trying to act normal, pretending everything was fine. That short appearance alone shattered the original timeline. How could she have been missing if she was still coming home? Then came another sighting that turned everything upside down. A Nest camera from a neighbor's house caught her outside late at night on September 8, 2024, just 1 day after her 14th birthday. The footage showed Celeste storming up the driveway, arguing with neighborhood kids. Her voice was sharp, defiant, full of attitude. You can hear her saying,
You tripping? Nah, you tripping. I bet you was tripping. We're not black. Let it go back to your house.
it sounded like a typical teenage fight, except this was supposed to be 5 months after she disappeared. That night, she was alive, fiery, and still living close to home. The most haunting moment came almost a year later. When another video surfaced, a blurry clip from August 24, 2024, at a concert in Maryland. A girl wearing a black tube top, ripped jeans, and long dark hair on the balcony. She's standing beside a tall young man who looks exactly like the singer David Burke. Let's zoom in and compared every detail: the bracelets, the hair, the smile. It looked just like Celeste. If it truly was her, that would mean she was still alive just 2 weeks before her body was found. The black tube top and torn jeans matched what she was wearing when police discovered her remains in the front trunk of a Tesla. The timeline, once simple, had collapsed, and with it, the certainty of what really happened to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. By early September, the story had taken a turn that no one could have imagined. On September 8, 2024, authorities made a horrifying discovery inside a Tesla parked along Donny Drive in the Hollywood Hills. The car had been sitting there for weeks, collecting dust, tickets tucked under the wiper, until it was finally towed on September 5. When workers opened the front trunk, they were hit with an unbearable smell. Inside was a large plastic-wrapped shape that turned out to be the decomposed remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The body was found in a severe state of decay, to the point investigators couldn't immediately tell if it was male or female. Only later did they confirm it was Celeste. She was wrapped in layers of clear plastic, as if someone had tried to contain the odor or hide what had been done. One of the few visible details was a small tattoo on her right index finger, the word "shoe" in red ink. It was the same tattoo her mother had once described when asked to identify her daughter. That tiny mark cut through the silence and confirmed what no one wanted to believe. Detectives pieced together what they could. Based on parking tickets and heat damage to the car, they estimated the Tesla had been abandoned since around August 26, sitting in the late summer sun while the body decomposed inside. For nearly 2 weeks, the car sat unnoticed on a quiet street, blending in with the others. And when it was finally towed away, the truth came with it hidden in the most unthinkable place. Investigators described the vehicle as belonging to David Burke, a rising young singer who had recently finished a tour. That single detail exploded the case into chaos. How did a missing teenager end up in his car? Was she already dead when the vehicle was parked, or was there something far darker behind it? A timeline began to take shape in April: disappearance. June, a family sighting. August 24, a concert. September 8, discovery. Each date drew a thin red line between hope and horror. As forensic teams examined the plastic wrapping and collected DNA, one truth became clear: Celeste hadn't just gone missing. Someone had hidden her in plain sight. He was 20, a rising musician with millions of plays, a brand new lease on a Hollywood Hills mansion, and a life that looked like success. She was 11 when they first met. By 13, she was spending time in his world, a world filled with cameras, late-night parties, and people twice her age. Her name was Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and the man she called her boyfriend was David Burke, known to most simply as David. Those who knew Celeste said she used fake IDs, some showing her as 18 or 19, others listing her as a college student. With her makeup, confidence, and the way she carried herself, few questioned it. She started showing up at social events, small parties, and, eventually, at the rented home in the Hollywood Hills, a property leased for about $20,000 a month. Neighbors said is a party house, a place where music never stopped and strangers came and went. And somewhere inside that chaos, Celeste seemed to disappear again this time, not just from her family, but from the safe world of childhood altogether. Photos and later confirmed what many had only whispered. She wasn't just a fan or a random guest, she was part of his life. In one stream, her voice can be heard off camera, teasing him. In another, she briefly appears behind him, smiling, before quickly stepping out of frame. There were comments calling her his girlfriend, and he didn't correct them. At first, people thought it was harmless, a crush between a young fan and a singer. But as the timeline grew clearer, that illusion shattered. Celeste's older brother Matthew told friends the family knew she had been seeing David. It wasn't a secret inside their home. Some even believed her parents thought she was safer with him than running away again. Celeste had already vanished once before being found weeks later in the Hollywood area, the same part of the city where David lived. So when she disappeared the second time, they assumed she was with him. They told themselves she'd come back like before. But she didn't. The deeper investigators looked, the more troubling the pattern became. Celeste's fake IDs, her long absences from school, her social media presence all pointed to a double life, carefully hidden in plain sight. Friends from school remembered her saying she wanted to be treated like an adult, that she was tired of being controlled at home. And David, charismatic and older, gave her exactly what she wanted, freedom that looked like love. To many, it fits the classic pattern of grooming, slow manipulation wrapped in affection and attention. A teenager taught to believe she was mature enough for something she couldn't possibly understand. There were accusations that David or those around him had harbored a runaway, knowingly letting a minor live under their roof without notifying authorities. Whether out of care, fear, or recklessness, it created a situation that spiraled beyond control. When investigators searched the rented house, they described it as chaotic, music equipment, alcohol, signs of constant activity. They conducted luminal tests looking for biological traces, possibly blood, though results were never made public. What was clear is that many people had access to that house and, reportedly, even to David's car. Some of those same people later claimed they had seen Celeste there more than once. The public now saw the story differently. It was no longer about a singer and a fan. It was about a man in his 20s living with a girl barely in her teens, and the adults around them who looked the other way. The ID cards, the laughter in those streams, the quiet acceptance from her family, they all formed a timeline of neglect disguised as freedom. By the time police connected the dots to the Hollywood house, the fake IDs, the video clips, it was too late. Celeste's short life had already become a tragedy, one built on trust misplaced and innocence stolen. It was the clip that reignited everything. Shot backstage after the Maryland concert on August 24, 2024, the grainy footage shows David Burke walking through a dimly lit hallway, sweat still on his face from the show. In his hand, he's holding what looks like a long black wig, twirling it by the strands as he laughs with someone off camera. It's an odd moment, part playful, part unsettling, and it quickly became the most analyzed frame of the entire case. Viewers couldn't agree on what they were seeing. Some believed the wig was a trophy, a disturbing token connected to Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the 14-year-old found dead 2 weeks later in the trunk of his Tesla. Others argued it was evidence that he had taken it to cover up something, maybe to clean, to hide hair or DNA. A smaller group said it could have been nothing at all, maybe a prop from the show, maybe part of the stage costume. But the timing was impossible to ignore. That concert was the last confirmed event before Celeste's death. Theories exploded overnight. In the video, David doesn't say anything about the wig, but the camera catches him smirking, then glancing away as someone mentions Celeste's name. That single look was enough to set the internet on fire. People slowed it down frame by frame, freezing on his expression, comparing it to moments from his past streams. The same small smile, the same nervous hand gestures. It felt like D4vd, except this time, a girl was dead. Even other creators reacted. Ludwig called it a straight-up smoking gun. XQC, during a live discussion, paused the clip, leaned forward, and muttered, "That's not normal behavior, man, that's hiding something." Their reaction spread fast, amplifying the sense that this wasn't just another rumor, it looked like guilt on film. One of David's collaborators, Jason Lewine, was confronted about the clip during a livestream of his own. He froze, smiled awkwardly, and then said nothing. That silence lasted only 3 seconds, but the internet never forgave it. People started calling it the guilty look, looping it into memes, side by side with the wig still shot. Whether the wig was a trophy, a cover-up, or just coincidence, no one could deny the timing. It was August 24th, the night Celeste was last seen alive. And in David's hand, swinging gently under the stage lights, was something that looked like her hair. In stories like this, small details can speak louder than any confession. One of those details is the black wig, an object that, real or symbolic, has come to represent the darker layers of David Burke's connection to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Whether imagined in reconstructions or mentioned by people close to the investigation, it stands for control, secrecy, and the haunting sense of possession that defined their relationship. Psychologically, a wig can mean many things. To some, it suggests control of the need to hold on to a part of someone to shape or recreate their image. To others, it symbolizes erasure, an attempt to wipe away traces of the truth. The act of holding or keeping something so intimate, so personal, echoes the behavior investigators often associate with obsession. When people can't let go, they try to preserve fragments, a photo, a lock of hair, an object that keeps the illusion alive. As one investigator described, the story of Celeste's last months shows a young girl who did not get a chance to grow up, did not get a chance to go to prom, wear a veil, and wear a cap and gown. The wig, in this context, becomes a reminder of what was taken from youth, innocence, and the right to exist freely. Reactions to this detail have been intense. Some call it a smoking gun, arguing that it represents guilt, a clue to what really happened after the Maryland concert on August 24, 2024. Others see it as nothing more than a symbolic artifact, the kind of haunting image people attach to unsolved cases because the truth feels too painful to face. The silence of those around David only fuels the unease. One collaborator, when asked about Celeste, paused and said nothing. His expression later described as the guilty look. That moment of hesitation became part of the mystery itself, looping endlessly in people's minds like a scene they can't unsee. So whether the wig was real or just a powerful metaphor, its meaning remains chillingly clear. It represents what happens when obsession crosses into ownership, when someone mistakes control for love and secrecy for safety. And like every unanswered question in this case, it leaves behind a shadow that no one has been able to brush away. Music can reveal more than words ever could. For David Burke, his songs now sound like echoes of a hidden story that may have been playing out long before anyone realized. His breakout hit, Romantic Homicide, was released on September 7, 2022, the day Celeste Rivas Hernandez turned 12. The timing alone feels eerie, but the lyrics make it even more unsettling. The song speaks of obsession, heartbreak, and betrayal, with lines about loving someone so deeply that it hurts to breathe. At first, it was just art, emotional and moody. But after Celeste's death, people began to listen differently. Every lyric started to sound like a confession. Another song, rumored to have been recorded privately and never officially released, was simply Celeste. In the leaked verse, he allegedly sings about her name, tattooed on his chest, and describes sleepless nights haunted by her face. If real, those words reveal not love, but fixation, a kind of obsession that blurs the line between affection and control. Whether the song was meant as tribute or torment, it showed how deeply she had invaded his world. The imagery didn't stop at his music. In one of his videos, David is shown dragging a bloody body into a car trunk. The scene isn't hidden, it's deliberate, stylized, and filmed as if death itself were part of the performance.
This is him dragging a body, as you say, for art's sake, and putting it in a trunk. A dead body, a bloody dead body in a trunk. That's the method of operation here.
There's all sorts of...
One analyst said to many, it was impossible not to see the connection a girl found in the front trunk of his Tesla, and a video where he reenacts that same act on camera. Some defended it as art, an expression of pain, a metaphor for emotional loss. But others couldn't separate the fiction from the reality. When a young girl's body is discovered in almost the same way the artist once portrayed in his own work, coincidence starts to look like motive. Maybe it was a performance. Maybe it was a prophecy. But one thing feels certain: Romantic Homicide was more than a song. It was the first piece of a dark puzzle that, 2 years later, ended with Celeste's name written not on a record sleeve, but in a case file marked, deceased. At first, fans loved his music because it felt raw and emotional. Romantic Homicide sounded like heartbreak, the kind of pain everyone experiences when love ends badly. But after Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found dead, those same lyrics stopped sounding poetic and started feeling like a confession. Lines once praised for their honesty were suddenly read like clues. I'm scared of what I'm becoming. One verse says, and what used to be emotional vulnerability now reads like guilt. People who had memorized every lyric began revisiting them, searching for meaning they might have missed. The shift was almost instant. Fans who once said, he just writes from pain, began asking, was he warning us all along? Each verse was picked apart, word by word. One person quoted, he's not just writing about heartbreak, he's writing about control, about wanting someone so badly that you'd rather destroy them than lose them. It was no longer just music. It was a psychological map. The discussion grew more intense when people noticed the timeline. Romantic Homicide was released on Celeste's 12th birthday, and another track rumored to be called Celeste described her name, tattooed on his chest. What had once been interpreted as love suddenly looked like obsession. Fans began comparing lyrics to events, connecting words about betrayal and silence to her disappearance. Even the smallest phrases, "Don't say her name," "You were never supposed to leave," took on a chilling double meaning. Some called it art imitating life. Others said it was life imitating art. But the emotional shift was undeniable. What once united a fanbase now divided it, half defending him, half convinced they had missed signs of something horrific. One line captured the mood perfectly. After that song, people stopped hearing art, they started hearing evidence. In the end, the music that once felt personal now feels haunted. The same lyrics that once healed people's heartbreak now echo through a tragedy no one can forget. On screen, words fade in one by one, the lyrics glowing against the dark as voices whisper the question no one wants to ask out loud. Was this song his confession all along? There were moments that made everything feel too real. Brief flashes of Celeste appearing beside David Burke, laughing, teasing, or simply standing just off to the side. In one clip described, she can be seen leaning toward him, whispering something, and then saying softly, "Delete it." He glances at her, smirks, and ends the stream a few seconds later. It seemed harmless at first, the kind of small playful moment that happens off camera. But when the truth came out about her age, that single word, delete, took on an entirely new meaning. From that point forward, every appearance she made with him looked different. In another described moment, David is adjusting his camera, and someone with the same voice believed to be Celeste says, "Don't show the window." The angle shifts instantly, the view of the street disappearing from frame. What once looked like ordinary privacy suddenly felt deliberate, a quiet, intentional effort to hide where they were. Neighbors later confirmed what investigators suspected. Celeste had been living in the Hollywood Hills house for months. One woman from across the street told officers, "I saw her walking the dog, getting the mail she wasn't hiding." Another added that she thought Celeste was cousin, or maybe his assistant, because she seemed so comfortable moving in and out of the house. But behind those appearances, the truth was far more serious. David was 20. Celeste was barely 13. Authorities began examining whether this was more than bad judgment, whether it was harboring a runaway. He had to have known she was underage. There were school records, a missing person report, even communication with her family. Yet she stayed there, surrounded by adults who either didn't know or didn't care. One investigator put it plainly, he knew she was a minor, and he let her stay. That's not protection, that's concealment. Looking back, those brief clips feel like windows into a secret life moment where guilt was hiding in plain sight. The camera caught smiles, laughter, and small exchanges, but beneath them was something darker, a young girl who should have been home, and a man who chose not to send her there. When people noticed that David Burke had deleted his past streams, the debate began. Was he protecting his reputation or trying to hide something much worse? Deleting content isn't a crime, but timing can make it look suspicious. The videos that disappeared were the same ones where Celeste Rivas Hernandez had appeared beside him, clips where her voice could be heard, where she called him by name, where she told him to delete it. Those fragments, innocent on the surface, suddenly became evidence of awareness, a trace of guilt caught between laughter and fear. Psychologists who later reviewed the behavior described it as a classic sign of self-preservation through erasure. When someone knows they've crossed a line, they often try to clean up what can expose them to the digital equivalent of wiping fingerprints. He didn't delete out of panic, he deleted with purpose. That simple observation reframed the entire question. Maybe he wasn't just embarrassed about what viewers might see, maybe he was already thinking about what investigators might find. The act of deletion, in itself, says a lot. If he believed everything was innocent, why remove it at all? Protecting privacy is one thing, removing entire sessions, especially those showing Celeste near him, tells another story. Some argued it was about controlling the narrative of an artist terrified of losing his clean image. But others saw something deeper, a man trying to erase the evidence of a relationship that should never have happened. Online discussions mirrored that divide. One user wrote, "He knew what he was doing, you don't delete history unless it can hurt you." Another countered, "Everyone panics when people start digging, it doesn't mean guilt." Between those two extremes sat the truth that deletion can be both a shield and a confession. In the end, the missing clips became as loud as any recording left behind. The silence they created invited questions that no statement could undo. Whether it was guilt or fear, shame or strategy, David's decision to erase his own digital trail only deepened the mystery. Sometimes, what disappears tells us more than what remains. It was the night everything changed, September 18, 2024. The street outside the Hollywood Hills mansion was quiet when unmarked vehicles rolled up just after sunset. Within minutes, flashlights and blue gloves filled the driveway. Investigators had a warrant to search the property connected to David Burke, the 20-year-old musician whose Tesla had become the center of a nationwide mystery. What they found inside would shift the story from rumor to suspicion. Forensic technicians entered through the back door, documenting every room. They brought luminol, a chemical that glows blue when it reacts with traces of blood. Multiple faint reactions were observed on the bedroom floor and near the laundry area. The glowing patterns weren't large enough to prove violence, but they were impossible to ignore. Under ultraviolet light, small streaks and droplets shimmered like ghosts, evidence of something wiped, something hidden. From the bedroom closet, investigators collected clothing and textiles. Among them was a white shirt with reddish-brown stains, folded neatly on a shelf. One investigator described it as an article consistent with what he was seen wearing during the Maryland performance. The stains had not yet been verified as blood, but the item was immediately sealed for testing. Nearby, they also recovered several strands of synthetic black hair, later confirmed to be from a wig. Together, the shirt and wig created an air to dismiss violence and control woven into one story. Electronic devices were seized: phones, tablets, external drives. Investigators believed these could hold communication records or deleted videos. Digital data will be cross-referenced with vehicle logs and timestamps of recorded appearances. The team stayed for more than 6 hours, carrying out boxes of equipment, samples, and hard drives before taping the property shut. By morning, David was gone. Neighbors said he left just after the raid, his car loaded with luggage. No one saw him return. The timing raised more questions than it answered. Why leave if there was nothing to hide? The evidence collected that night remains unconfirmed, but its implications are powerful. The blood-stained shirt suggests a moment of contact. The wig hints at possession or performance. The digital cleanup implies intent. When viewed together, they tell a quiet story, one of control, erasure, and the need to dominate both a person and the narrative around her. You can stage a room, you can wipe a floor, but luminol doesn't lie. The glow may fade, but it never forgets what was once there. No official results have been released on the samples taken that night. Yet, for many, the image of that glowing blue light in David's bedroom has already become symbolic the moment the illusion of innocence started to dissolve. Whether those stains belonged to Celeste or not, the raid left a message that couldn't be erased. Someone had tried very hard to clean up something that should never have happened. The investigation was eventually turned over to the Robbery Homicide Division, the department that handles the city's most complex and sensitive cases. Their focus was no longer on rumors or online theories. It was on the evidence left behind by Celeste Rivas Hernandez and David Burke. The Tesla where her body was found became their starting point. Modern Teslas record almost everything. The car had 6 cameras front, rear, and side, all capable of capturing video even when parked. Analysts are reviewing vehicle footage frame by frame to determine who accessed the car, when it was parked, and whether the trunk had been opened prior to impound. The data could show who last touched the vehicle and how long it sat untouched on Doheny Drive before being towed. Investigators are also analyzing the car's internal GPS and battery logs to map every movement in the days before her death. In a nearby storm drain, officers recovered a Tesla keycard, water-damaged but still legible. One report notes, prints may be recoverable from the upper edge. The possibility that it had been thrown away in a hurry suggested panic, someone trying to distance themselves from the car without being traced. Alongside the Tesla footage, police collected home security videos from neighboring properties, hoping to piece together the last known movements around the house. One clip showed headlights arriving just after midnight. Another caught a figure walking toward the car before it was abandoned. Detectives also pulled cell phone data and location records, comparing David's movements to the Tesla's route history. The timeline, though incomplete, painted a picture of overlapping signals. The car near his home, his phone in the same area, then both going silent at the same hour. As of October 6, 2025, no arrest has been made. David Burke has not been formally named a suspect in homicide. Investigators are waiting for toxicology and forensic reports, which could take months. The charges under consideration include concealment of a body and unlawful relations with a minor, but for now, he remains free. One detective summarized it simply: "We have pieces of the puzzle, but not the picture yet. And until the results come back, the question remains, was Celeste's death an accident, or something far darker waiting to be proven?" When the investigation turned toward those closest to David Burke, the first name that surfaced was Josh Marshall, his longtime manager and the person who handled his business life. As the story surrounding Celeste Rivas Hernandez unfolded, Marshall found himself under growing scrutiny. People wanted to know what he knew and when he knew it. But he said, "I had zero knowledge of anything related to that girl. I never received an email or message from her family. I don't even live in California." Marshall said he worked remotely, managing David's career from another state, relying on calls and messages to handle contracts, scheduling, and appearances. He claimed he had never met Celeste and had no idea she had been staying at the Hollywood Hills house. Investigators confirmed that his name was on lease only as a co-signer, a technical detail for financial purposes, not proof of residence. Still, his distance didn't shield him from suspicion. To many, it seemed impossible that someone overseeing David's career could have been entirely unaware of who was living in that house. One investigator phrased it carefully: may not have known what was happening day to day, but he benefited from what that lifestyle created. It was a subtle suggestion that ignorance can sometimes be convenient. Marshall, however, insisted his focus was business. "My job was to keep his career on track," he said. "Whatever happened at that house, I had no part in it." Meanwhile, the digital evidence told its own story. Emails and phone data collected during the search showed that David and Marshall had communicated frequently in the weeks before Celeste's body was discovered. The tone was professional discussions about tour plans, upcoming shows, and contracts. Nothing in those exchanges directly referenced Celeste, but the absence of her name, given everything else happening, raised its own quiet question: was she being hidden in plain sight, even from those closest to him? Marshall's denial may be truthful, or it may be part of a wall built to keep the fallout from reaching further. For now, he remains a witness, not a suspect, another name in a widening story of silence, secrets, and a Tesla that still holds more answers than anyone is ready to face. By the time investigators opened the front trunk of the Tesla of 8th, 2024, what they found was already far from recognizable. The remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez had undergone advanced decomposition, a transformation both tragic and deeply revealing. The body was wrapped in multiple layers of clear plastic. The skin was discolored blue and black, with areas of blistering and detachment consistent with heat exposure. California's late summer temperatures had accelerated the process, turning what might have taken weeks into mere days. The coroner's preliminary report described a scene that left even seasoned investigators shaken. The combination of heat, plastic containment, and lack of airflow had created a kind of sealed chamber. Gases built up beneath the skin, causing swelling and discoloration. Portions of tissue had begun to separate. The report noted possible post-mortem fragmentation, not consistent with natural decomposition. That one line, not consistent with natural decomposition, opened an entirely new line of inquiry. It meant there could have been cutting, slicing, or tearing actions made by a person, not nature. Forensic entomologists were called in to help estimate time of death using insect activity. Presence of adult blowflies, eggs, and third-stage maggots suggest colonization between August 24th and September 3rd. Those dates aligned almost perfectly with the last known sighting of Celeste at the Maryland concert and the period when the Tesla was believed to have been abandoned. The insects told a story the human body no longer could: one of time, temperature, and stillness. As for cause of death, the possibilities remain painfully open. Investigators have listed 3 leading theories: asphyxiation, stabbing, or a fentanyl overdose. One medical examiner: there were no clear defensive wounds, no gunshot, no blunt trauma fractures. Suffocation or toxicity cannot be ruled out. The plastic wrapping itself could have contributed to suffocation if applied while she was still breathing, or it could have been used after death to contain odor and fluids. Either way, it spoke to an effort not of care, but of concealment. Toxicology tests were ordered immediately. Blood, tissue, and hair samples were taken to screen for opiates, sedatives, and other controlled substances. The results may take several months due to a backlog in state labs. That delay left investigators with more questions than answers and gave those watching the outside an uncomfortable truth to sit with. Celeste's death could still turn out to be a murder, an overdose, or something in between. The condition of her body was both a scientific puzzle and an emotional wound. Detectives described the scene as quiet, clinical, almost unreal. There were no signs of a struggle in the car, but the plastic sheeting suggested planning. Someone had taken the time to wrap her carefully, layer by layer, before leaving her in the heat. Forensic specialists later said that in all likelihood, she had been dead for at least 5 to 10 days before being found. The timeline matched the window of silence when her phone went offline, when David's car stopped moving, and when her name stopped appearing anywhere at all. Science can't tell why it happened, only when and how. But in that small, sealed space, beneath the California sun, the truth was already starting to rise to the surface. 2 stories have emerged from this case, and each one paints a very different picture of what might have happened to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Both are heartbreaking. Both are possible. The first theory that chills people the most is the idea that David Burke killed her. Investigators and those who knew Celeste have pointed to signs of grooming that began when she was barely 11. He was 20, charming, talented, and older than anyone she had ever known. Over time, his attention became something darker, control masked as care, obsession disguised as love. The symbols of that control are everywhere: the wig that looks like her hair, the lyrics that speak of possession and death, the constant need to hide her from the outside world. In this version of the story, the night she died wasn't an accident. It was a breaking point. Maybe there was an argument, maybe panic, maybe rage. The theory suggests he suffocated her or stabbed her, then wrapped her body in plastic and placed it inside the Tesla's front trunk, a chilling echo of the imagery from his own music. To those who believe this, it wasn't coincidence, it was premeditation hidden in plain sight. The second theory is the one that offers a small, desperate sense of mercy, the idea that Celeste's death was accidental. David's Hollywood Hills home had a reputation as a party house, full of people coming and going, music playing all night, and little control over who used what. Some think that during one of those chaotic nights, Celeste overdosed on fentanyl, a drug that kills quickly and quietly. Maybe she took it unknowingly, or maybe someone handed it to her, not realizing her age. When she collapsed, panic set in. No one wanted to call the police. Someone, maybe David, maybe not, have decided to hide her body, to buy time, to make it look like she'd simply run away again. It's a story built on fear, not hate, but it still ends the same way: a young girl gone, her life traded for someone else's silence. Both versions lead to tragedy. Whether it was violence or panic, obsession or negligence, Celeste's death was the result of adults who should have known better and a child who trusted the wrong person. In the end, it doesn't matter which theory is true. What matters is that a 13-year-old girl was failed by everyone around her, and the truth is still waiting to be told. There's a third theory, one that refuses to deny the idea that David Burke was framed. It doesn't deny that Celeste Rivas Hernandez died tragically, but it argues that someone else used her body as a weapon, planting it where it would cause the most damage. In this version, David didn't kill her, someone made sure it looked like he did. The logic starts with timing. The Tesla had been parked on Dahani Drive for almost 2 weeks before being towed. Whoever left it there had to know that an abandoned car in that neighborhood wouldn't go unnoticed for long. When police finally opened the front trunk and found Celeste's remains, it created an instant media explosion. To the person who put her there, that was the point. They didn't just want to hide a body, they wanted to destroy someone's life. This theory gains strength from the house itself. David's Hollywood Hills property was known for its constant movement, a revolving door of guests, friends, and hangers-on. People came and went at all hours, some staying for days, others disappearing just as quickly. One of the detectives described it as a chaotic environment where no one could say who was responsible for what. In a place like that, fingerprints, DNA, and evidence could belong to anyone. If someone wanted to frame him, they had the perfect setting: a messy, crowded house and a car tied to his name. The wig and blood-stained shirt, if proven authentic, could point to violence and control, supporting the murder theory. The wild, unregulated parties and reports of drug use fit the overdose scenario. But the constant flow of strangers, the lost keycard found in a drain, and the gap in camera footage all lend weight to the framing theory. Someone could have had both motive and access to the house, the car, and the girl. The most haunting part of this possibility is how perfectly it fits the timeline. On August 24th, David performed in Maryland his last verified public appearance. In the days after, Celeste vanished. By September 8th, her body was found in his Tesla. That's a 14-day gap with no confirmed sightings of him at the house. If the vehicle was parked and locked while he was away, someone else had possession of it. Supporters of this theory say it explains the contradictions: the missing footage, the sudden deletion of streams, the silence from those closest to him. They see a setup, a cruel plan that uses timing, chaos, and public perception to trap him. Still, others can't shake the unease. Even if someone placed her there, why was there so much tying her to him? Why the wig, the lyrics, the house, the secrecy? Every answer seems to open a new question. 3 theories now circle the same truth: murder, overdose, or framing. The wig and blood suggest violence. The party house points to an accident. The missing time and open access make framing possible. Somewhere in that triangle lies the reality of what happened to Celeste, a truth hidden between love, fear, and the perfect setup. Until evidence speaks louder than speculation, the story remains what it has been from the start: a mystery wrapped in music, fame, and silence. When the news broke, everything around David Burke began to collapse. What started as whispers turned into a full shutdown of his career. On September 17, 2024, the first domino fell. His show in Seattle was quietly canceled, followed by dates in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then the entire European leg of his tour. For someone who had been on the verge of global fame, it was the end of everything he had built. The label didn't need a court verdict, public opinion was enough. In the days that followed, the fallout grew faster than anyone could control. Sponsorships and collaborations disappeared one after another. The Grammy Museum appearance that had been planned for the following week was canceled, and companies once proud to associate with his name cut ties. Fashion and retail brands removed him from their promotional pages. Even his merch store went offline, a digital curtain closing on a brand that had once sold out in minutes. Behind the scenes, people who had worked with him scrambled to protect themselves. His management stopped responding to requests, and former collaborators began deleting photos and posts. The quiet distance said more than any statement could, but as often happens in tragedies like this, curiosity replaced admiration. For a short time, his music streams spiked by 64%, driven by listeners who wanted to find hidden meanings in his lyrics. It wasn't love anymore, it was morbid fascination. Within weeks, the numbers dropped again, and he lost more than 500,000 regular listeners. What had once been a loyal fanbase turned into silence. Even his fan community, once known for its passion, began to splinter. Discussion threads locked, moderators vanished, and followers quietly drifted away. Those who stayed were left arguing whether they had supported a misunderstood artist or someone capable of something unthinkable. By the end of September, David's world had gone dark with no tour, no sponsors, no public appearances. The voice that had once filled stadiums was now a whisper, drowned out by the weight of the story surrounding him. The motive and access to the house, the car, and the girl. The most haunting part of this possibility is how perfectly it fits the timeline. On August 24th, David performed in Maryland his last verified public appearance. In the days after, Celeste vanished. By September 8th, her body was found in his Tesla. That's a 14-day gap with no confirmed sightings of him at the house. Supporters of this theory say it explains the contradictions, the missing footage, the sudden deletion of streams, the silence from those closest to him. They see a setup, a cruel plan that uses timing, chaos, and public perception to trap him. Still, others can't shake the unease. Even if someone placed her there, why was there so much tying her to him? Why the wig, the lyrics, the house, the secrecy? Every answer seems to open a new question. 3 theories now circle the same truth: murder, overdose, or framing. The wig and blood suggest violence. The party house points to an accident. The missing time and open access make framing possible. Somewhere in that triangle lies the reality of what happened to Celeste, a truth hidden between love, fear, and the perfect setup. Until evidence speaks louder than speculation, the story remains what it has been from the start, a mystery wrapped in music, fame, and silence. In the weeks following the discovery of Celeste Hernandez, David Burke vanished from public view. He stopped performing, stopped posting, and stopped speaking entirely. His once busy schedule of interviews and concerts was replaced by silence and legal meetings behind closed doors. He has retained high-profile criminal defense counsel and declined all requests for comment. It was the clearest sign yet that he understood the gravity of what was coming. The first move came quietly with a formal notice from his team canceling the remainder of his tour. The email sent to promoters and venues was short and sterile. Due to unforeseen circumstances, all upcoming performances are postponed until further notice. Within hours, the message spread across fan circles, and disbelief turned to anger. People who had followed his rise from bedroom musician to global performer couldn't believe the fall could happen so fast. Meanwhile, his Hollywood Hills rental, the same home searched on September 18, 2024, sat empty. Neighbors reported movers arriving late at night, taking boxes and instruments out through the back gate. He didn't even say goodbye. The house looked stripped, like someone was erasing himself from it. By morning, he was gone. The lease, said to cost nearly $20,000 a month, was terminated just days after the raid. Those close to the investigation confirmed that David had hired one of the most expensive defense teams in Los Angeles, known for representing high-profile clients in criminal and civil cases. Their strategy was simple: complete silence. No statements, no public appearances, no explanations. The lawyer told reporters only one thing: Burke is cooperating fully with investigators and will not comment on an ongoing matter. For fans, that silence was harder to understand than any headline. Messages flooded forums and group chats, people begging for an explanation, others fitting him, many just heartbroken. He went from thanking us every day to acting like we never existed. By October, David's absence had become its own story. The boy who once built a career on honesty and emotion now hid behind walls of lawyers and locked doors. And in that quiet, the mystery surrounding Celeste only grew louder. From the very beginning, Celeste Rivas Hernandez's mother believed that David Burke had something to do with her daughter's disappearance. Even when others held out hope, she couldn't shake the feeling that the man her daughter once called safe was hiding something. Friends said she had warned Celeste to stay away from him, that she'd seen the way he looked at her, how his messages had gone from kind to controlling. By the time Celeste was finally laid to rest, that quiet fear had hardened into determination. Her funeral took place on October 4th, 2025, nearly a year after her body was found. Hundreds of people came, classmates, neighbors, teachers, even strangers who had followed her story. Her mother stood beside the small white coffin, surrounded by flowers and framed photos from happier days. Someone had printed a sign that read, "Justice for Celeste," and soon the phrase spread through the crowd like a shared heartbeat. A GoFundMe account set up to help with funeral expenses raised $24,000, far more than expected. The extra money was used to create a small memorial near the Lake Elsinore High School, where Celeste once dreamed of returning. That same week, a candlelight vigil took place by the lake. Students brought posters, candles, and handwritten notes. Some spoke through tears about how they had seen Celeste's videos and never realized the danger she was in. Others warned their friends to be careful about people they met online, older men who offered attention, promises, or a way out. One teacher said quietly, she was a child. She wanted to feel seen, and someone used that against her. The moment captured everything. The community felt grief mixed with anger, sadness mixed with guilt. In the weeks that followed, small demonstrations grew in size. People held signs demanding accountability. Cars honked as they passed, candles flickered at night. Celeste's story had become more than a local tragedy. It was a warning about how easily a child's trust can be twisted. Back in Lake Elsinore, students began organizing awareness talks, sharing what grooming looks like, how to recognize manipulation before it's too late. Videos of young people crying as they spoke about Celeste circulated among friends and families, creating a wave of empathy and fear that reached beyond the town. For Celeste's mother, none of it could bring her daughter back, but she refused to let her story end in silence. As candles burned down to wax and the crowd slowly went home, the lake reflected hundreds of tiny lights, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, people still come together to keep a child's memory alive. Celeste's story began in pain, but her name had become a symbol of something larger, a community's promise to protect the next child before it's too late. When the truth about Celeste Rivas Hernandez began to unfold, it didn't just shake a family or a fan base, it shook an entire industry. People started asking how a tragedy like this could happen in plain sight, and why no one in the music world had stepped in sooner. The silence from the major players was deafening. Interscope, the label behind David Burke's meteoric rise, said nothing. Streaming platforms kept his music online for weeks before quietly reducing its visibility. They didn't pull him, they waited for the noise to die down. That silence became its own kind of guilt. For years, the music industry had marketed youth and vulnerability, pairing young artists with much older mentors, blurring boundaries between art and exploitation. Now, Celeste's story forced everyone to look at what had been ignored. She wasn't the first young girl pulled into the orbit of fame, but her ending made it impossible to pretend the system was harmless. People began calling her a symbol of the system's failure, a reminder that fame can hide danger behind talent, money, and carefully managed images. Meanwhile, outside the boardrooms, the world turned into a courtroom of public opinion. Live streamers and commentators dissected every lyric, every clip, every detail of the timeline. On camera, faces turned serious as they debated whether David was a predator or a scapegoat. If the people who make the rules won't say something, then we will. Audiences grew by the millions, hungry for truth and outrage in equal measure. On discussion boards and social threads, theories multiplied. Some users analyzed lyrics line by line. Others searched for hidden meanings in background images and stage performances. Hashtags demanding justice trended for days. The digital noise became so loud that investigators had to ask people to stop interfering with evidence collection. But for many, it was the only way to process what had happened by turning grief into participation. Amid the chaos, a quieter but more important conversation began, the grooming of young fans through fandom spaces. Teachers, parents, and even former fans spoke up about how easily admiration can turn into manipulation. Online communities built around idols can make teenagers feel seen, special, chosen until someone uses that trust for something darker. Infographics began circulating titled, "Red Flags of Grooming," listing signs that once seemed harmless, private messages, secret invitations that cross a line. Students started sharing their own stories, some eerily similar to Celeste's gifts, promises, silence. Celeste's death had exposed more than one person's wrongdoing. It had exposed how an entire system looked away. The industry that sold emotion and vulnerability had profited from it for too long. Now, every lyric and livestream came with a question. Where is the line between art and abuse? And why does it take a tragedy for anyone to care? In the end, Celeste became more than a name and a headline. She became a warning, a symbol of how easily innocence can be traded for attention, and how dangerous silence can be when power meets obsession. That's the question that refuses to go away. Every piece of evidence in this case seems to tell a different story, but all of them circle back to the same mystery. What really happened to Celeste Rivas Hernandez? And who is responsible? Some believe David Burke killed her, that the signs were there all along. The black wig, the lyrics about love and death, the videos that blurred fantasy and reality. To them, these weren't coincidences. They were confessions in plain sight. They see a man obsessed, unable to let go, whose art mirrored the violence he later tried to hide. The Tesla, with her body sealed inside, feels like the final verse in a song that was written long before anyone realized what it meant. Others argue it was an accident, that Celeste died in a moment of chaos, surrounded by people too scared to do the right thing. Maybe it was an overdose. Maybe panic made someone make a terrible choice. To them, David didn't plan anything, he just froze, and then ran. That doesn't make him innocent, but it does make the story more tragic than monstrous. And then there's the third theory, that he was framed, that someone else put her body in his car, knowing exactly what it would look like. The timing, the location, the silence, all of it too perfect, too cruel, too convenient. Through all the theories, one question still hangs in the air. Who knew Celeste was living in his house? Because someone did. Someone saw her there, talked to her, and said nothing. And that silence, in the end, may be the most dangerous part of all. Today, investigators are still waiting for the final toxicology results, the one piece of science that could confirm how Celeste died. It could take months. But for those who have followed her story, the message is simple. No matter what the reports say, Celeste deserves justice. She deserves truth, not rumors. She deserves a voice, even if it has to be spoken for her. Because in the end, it's not just about guilt or innocence. It's about a child who trusted the wrong person and a world that looked away until it was too late. On screen, a soft light fades in over Celeste's photo of a smiling 13-year-old girl with dark hair and eyes full of hope. Her image lingers as the words, "Justice for Celeste," appear in bold white letters, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Behind her picture, a timeline graphic slowly unfolds, tracing the story from her last known sighting at the Maryland concert on August 24, 2024, to the night her body was discovered in the Tesla on September 8. Each date glows briefly, moments of her life reduced to milestones of lost, missing, found, investigation, silence. Faint whispers of her laughter echo under the narration, then fade into a low, tense hum. The hashtag Justice crescents across the screen like candlelight, one flame turning into hundreds. The final frame holds on her face one last time, her smile now surrounded by soft golden light. Beneath it, a single line appears: "The truth may take time, but Celeste deserves it." The screen fades to black. Silence. Just her name, just her story. Soft piano music plays, gentle, respectful, almost sacred music. A single candle flickers on screen, its flame reflecting against a blurred background of flowers and framed photos. In the center, Celeste's face appears again with the same bright smile, the same energy that once lit up every room she walked into. Then, slowly, the narrator begins to speak. Before you scroll away, take 1 minute for her. Just 1 minute for Celeste. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 18 years old when her story ended in tragedy. A teenager who should have been safe, protected, and alive today. But instead, her name has become a question, a wound, and a reminder of how easily innocence can be lost when power, fame, and silence collide. Theories have flooded every corner of the internet. Was David Burke guilty of murder, or did something else happen? Was this obsession, accident, or something orchestrated to destroy him? Each theory feels convincing for a moment, until another piece of information surfaces and changes everything again. The black wig, the blood-stained shirt, the plastic wrapping, the Tesla, the missing keycard. Each clue seems to pull us closer to the truth, yet somehow further from understanding. Some say the music already confessed. Others say the silence does. And through it all, one voice keeps repeating in the background: Celeste deserves justice. Maybe David planned it. Maybe he panicked. Maybe he was framed. No matter which theory you believe, one fact remains the same: a young girl is gone, and someone knows why. Now it's your turn to ask the question. What do you think happened to Celeste? Was this a crime of passion, a terrible accident, a setup? Drop your theory in the comments below. Discuss it, analyze it, argue it, but keep her name alive. Because the more people talk about her, the harder it becomes for the truth to disappear. And if you know anything, no matter how small, no matter how unsure, please reach out. The Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division is still investigating. You can remain anonymous. What you share could help give a family the closure they've been waiting for. As the narration continues, the images shift: clips of candlelight vigils at Lake Elsinore, students holding signs with her name, crowds standing silently with phones turned into glowing candles. The hashtag Justice for Celeste fills the screen, repeating across languages, across cities. Then, footage of Celeste's mother at the funeral. Her hand on the small white coffin, her voice trembling as she says, she trusted people she shouldn't have. Please, don't let her story fade. The piano music grows softer, more emotional, as the narrator's tone lowers. Somewhere out there, the truth is waiting in a test result, a hard drive, a memory someone's still too afraid to share. It may take months for toxicology reports to come back. It may take even longer for justice to arrive. But Celeste deserves both. She deserves patience, attention, and truth, not silence, not rumors, not excuses. Her timeline appears again, short, simple, devastating. Born 2010, missing May 4, September 8, 2024. Funeral October 4, 2025. Each date fades in and out like heartbeats. Then the voice says softly she was only 14. Her story shouldn't end here. A soft wind sound fades in, followed by the low hum of candles burning. The camera pans across rows of flowers, messages, and photos left at her memorial. Someone has written, "We love you, Celeste," in chalk on the pavement. Another note says, "You didn't deserve this." The narrator continues, "This isn't just a story about one girl and one man. It's about how easily disappear, not just physically, but in plain sight. How often we see something strange, something off, and choose to look away. Celeste's life reminds us what happens when we don't speak up soon enough. If you're a parent, talk to your kids. If you're a friend, check on each other. If you see something, say something. Because silence is how tragedies like this grow." Then, the music softens even further, almost fading to silence. Now wherever you are, take 1 minute. Close your eyes. Think of her name. Think of the child she was, and the woman she'll never get to be. The screen fades to black for exactly 60 seconds. No music. No sound. Just her name glowing in white text. Celeste Rivas Hernandez, 2010-24. Gone too soon, never forgotten. After the pause, the narrator's voice returns one last time, commotional. If you believe in justice, don't scroll past. Share this video. Keep her story alive. Follow for updates when the toxicology results are released, because the truth is coming, and she deserves for all of us to hear it. The camera cuts to a final image. The music swells one last time, soft strings and distant choral voices before the screen fades out completely, leaving only one final message in silence: justice for Celeste. 1 minute for her. 1 lifetime for the truth. We've reached the end of this story, but not the end of Celeste's story. Every theory, every detail, every unanswered question comes back to one simple truth. A 14-year-old girl is gone, and she deserves to be remembered for more than the tragedy that took her. Whether it was obsession, accident, or betrayal, what happened to Celeste must not be buried under silence or speculation. The toxicology results will come, and with them, the truth may not be the whole truth, but enough to move closer to justice. Images of the lake vigil appear again, candles floating across the water, friends holding pictures, tears mixing with candlelight. The narrator's voice softens. If you've watched this far, take 1 moment for her. Say her name. Think about the people in your own life who need to be seen, who need to be safe. The camera pans to hashtag Justice for Celeste, spreading like stars across the screen. Then the number appears again, 20 for 30, 486, 680, 90, followed by the words, "If you know something, speak up. You can stay anonymous." The music swells, then fades to near silence. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for caring. Celeste's story isn't over, it's still being written, piece by piece, by those who refuse to forget her. Until the truth comes out, keep her light alive. The final frame lingers on her photo one last time. A single line fades in below it. For Celeste, may the truth find its way home. As the final image of Celeste's face fades into the darkness, a single candle continues to flicker in the background. The screen lingers for a moment, emphasizing the soft glow, before the camera pulls back to show a larger image of a growing sea of candles, each one representing someone who has taken a moment to remember, to reflect, to ask questions. This is more than just a case, it's a call to action. The narrator's voice cuts through the silence, steady and clear. It's a reminder that no one, no child, should ever feel unseen or unheard. The people in Celeste's life, her friends, her family, and even strangers are still fighting for justice. They're still asking the questions, and they're not stopping. The screen fills with a final reminder, as images of people from all walks of life appear, lighting candles, holding up signs, and standing in unity under the hashtag Justice for Celeste. There's power in this shared moment, in this shared grief, and in the collective desire to see truth come to light. In every vigil, in every post, in every petition, Celeste's memory lives on. It's through the voices of those who stand with her that we'll find the strength to keep pushing forward. The camera slowly pulls back, and the music swells once more, a feeling of quiet resolve hanging in the air. As the music fades, the screen goes black, leaving only the final words to echo. This isn't over. Justice is just beginning. The image of Celeste's smiling face lingers one last time, the soft glow of a candle slowly fading to black. The tragic case of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez has sent shockwaves through the public, with unsettling details continuing to emerge. Initially reported missing in April 2024 from her home in Lake Elsinore, California, Celeste's disappearance seemed like yet another case that would remain unsolved. However, after more than a year of uncertainty, her body was discovered in the front trunk of a Tesla belonging to the famous TikTok star and singer David. The discovery of her remains in the trunk of the car immediately raised suspicions, especially due to the timing of events surrounding David, whose lyrics eerily matched the days Celeste vanished. As investigators scrambled to piece together the details of her disappearance and death, the Tesla's data became a key focus. Reports indicate that GPS data and footage from the car's Sentry Mode cameras are currently being analyzed to help clarify the timeline and determine who had access to the vehicle. There are also troubling details surrounding a Tesla keycard found near David's home, which may have been tampered with, casting further doubt on the circumstances surrounding Celeste's death. While the car had never been reported as stolen, questions about how it was involved in the case remain unanswered. With toxicology reports pending, forensic experts are hopeful that testing on Celeste's hair, liver, and glass samples will reveal crucial information about her cause of death, potentially pointing to overdose, poisoning, or other factors that could offer a clue to what really happened. The investigation, currently classified as Case Fay 2025-1-2, has already revealed some concerning developments. Celeste's remains, found in the trunk of David's car, suggest that her death may have been more than just an accident or a random act of violence. Experts are considering the possibility of foul play, including a potential cover-up or even homicide. The ongoing analysis of the Tesla data and forensic samples could provide much-needed clarity on these matters. As the case develops, the public and Celeste's family await justice, hoping that the answers they so desperately seek will soon come to light. Meanwhile, a growing network of online investigators and concerned citizens continues to examine every available piece of evidence, questioning whether David, once seen as a public figure admired by millions, might have been hiding a much darker secret. The mystery surrounding Celeste's death, coupled with the chilling coincidences tied to David, leaves many wondering if there's more to this story than anyone could have imagined. Adding to the intrigue, David's lyrics were found to be eerily aligned with the timeline of Celeste's disappearance. Lyrics from his song Romantic Homicide seem to correspond with key dates, including the day Celeste vanished. While this might initially appear to be a mere coincidence, it left many wondering if there was more to the situation than met the eye. Was David confessing through his music, or was this just a disturbing series of coincidences? The connection between his lyrics and Celeste's disappearance could not be ignored, and investigators began to scrutinize David's actions and movements during that time period. In addition to the troubling lyrics, another key element of the investigation was the discovery of a Tesla keycard found near David's home. This card, which could potentially unlock the vehicle, may have been tampered with before authorities had a chance to recover it. Although the Tesla had never been reported as stolen, the fact that the keycard was found in close proximity to the singer's home raised serious questions about who had access to the car and what role it might have played in Celeste's death. If the car had been used in the commission of a crime, what other evidence might be locked away in its electronic systems? These questions weighed heavily on investigators as they worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. While the investigation into Celeste's death remains ongoing, forensic experts are focusing on key pieces of evidence that could shed light on the cause of her death. Toxicology reports, which are expected to take several more months, could provide crucial insights into whether Celeste's death was the result of an overdose, poisoning, or another form of foul play. Samples from her liver, hair, and glass found in the vehicle will be tested for any signs of drugs or toxic substances. These tests could reveal whether she was murdered or if her death was the result of an unfortunate accident. Regardless of the outcome, the long wait for answers is undoubtedly a difficult ordeal for Celeste's grieving family, who are desperate for justice. As the investigation continues, the public remains divided over what really happened to Celeste. Many speculate that David may be hiding something more sinister behind his public persona. The combination of his connection to the case, the disturbing lyrics in his music, and the physical evidence pointing to his car has led some to believe he may be involved in more than just a tragic accident. Others, however, argue that David may have been wrongly implicated, suggesting that the evidence pointing toward him might simply be circumstantial. Regardless, the dark cloud hanging over David's reputation will likely continue to loom as more details emerge. In the meantime, Celeste's family is left to grapple with the pain of losing their daughter in such a mysterious and disturbing way. The search for answers is far from over, and the truth remains elusive. As the investigation unfolds, the public's attention continues to focus on the questions that remain unanswered. Was Celeste's death an accident, or was it the result of something far darker? Was David involved, or is he simply a victim of circumstance? Only time will tell, but for now the haunting mystery of Celeste's death remains one of the most unsettling and controversial cases in recent memory. The investigation into Celeste's death is also drawing attention to the broader issue of accountability in cases involving high-profile individuals. With David's fame and popularity, the question arises: how does public status influence the investigation? Are there elements of the case being overlooked due to his celebrity status? Or are investigators following the evidence wherever it leads? These questions are being raised by the public and, in some cases, by those who have followed the case closely from the beginning. For now, Celeste's family and the public await answers. The investigation is far from over, and with each new piece of evidence that emerges, the truth behind her death may finally come to light. The mystery surrounding Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death is far from being solved, but the pursuit of justice continues as law enforcement works diligently to uncover the facts and bring those responsible to justice. As the investigation progresses, one thing remains certain: Celeste's memory and her family's fight for justice will not be forgotten.